it actually goes live. I wanted to be
push it, Dan. Push it real good.
I pushed the button. How do you say that in French? Pousse le bouton.
Le push the button.
Push the button. Yeah, we're all class over here at the Hoob. I haven't seen any signage in the background on your end in a while. Where's my Hoob ball sign?
I need to go back to the Matrix and sit myself down, put a sign behind my head. It'll be great.
Where's my Hoob ball shower curtains?
That was your idea, Dan. That was your if you're gonna make that happen, you just need to make it happen.
I got my guy on lock. You saw that email, right? Or did I CC you on?
I did. Yeah, no, I do recall an email of. I just, I can't take it seriously. If you're gonna put a shower curtain in your bedroom, I want to see the install first. I want to see the actual curtain rod installed, and then I want to talk to your wife and see if she's down with it.
See, so here's where I think I can actually sneak this thing through. My wife's a doctor, right? So she spends a lot of her time in hospitals where every bed literally has a shower curtain around it.
I don't think that's going to work, Dan.
Okay,
I think you're bringing the work environment back into the house, and then she's going to be like,
My work environment is my house. She should have a taste of my medicine on this one. Look at my office. Dan Besbris' unmade bed is my office. This is where we are right now.
I think this. Yeah, I want to see this go down, Dan. Please do. Please do this.
I got my boy Sander ready to go. He's ready to make us some shower curtains. He's been in the words of Saturday Night Live. He's been very, very good to me for a long time. He's AMI Graphics, by the way, out there. I'll give you a shout out, Sander. If anybody needs like large scale posters or signage printed, hit up AMI. They're very good. Tell them Dan sent you, and they'll say, "Who gives a bleep? Here's what you're gonna pay us." Brew, what's up, man? How are you?
It's Friday, man. I'm good. It's been a busy-ish week. I don't know. It's this was funny because I was like looking at the stats for Nikola Jokic last year because I get a lot of questions about Gorgie Jang.
Wait, don't launch into too much of the show stuff because I haven't. This is unofficial start.
Oh, are we on? I just assume
we're on. But
I just assume we're on.
We're on. But I gotta hit record so I can put this out on the traditional podcast network.
Oh, well, I'm not going to talk about them. I'm just going to. You asked me how I'm doing because it's what this is. It's a little bit tough. This is not for the easy. This isn't easy. When Nikola Jokic was doing his thing, or not doing his thing last year, it wasn't easy to tell everybody hang on or whatever you're going to tell them. That's what this week's been about for me, is really just kind of trying to wrap my head around all of that. But I'm not going to say anything else because obviously you want this for your podcast. Dan Besbris is highly successful, record-breaking podcast. I get it. It's all about Dan and his record-breaking podcast. I get it, Dan. I get it.
You're right. You're damn right. It's all about the pod. It's all about the pod. I'll tell you right now, Brew, and this will bring, I think, a warmth to the cockles of your heart. The cold, dark cockles of Aaron Bruski's heart will be warmed. The top shows in the history of Fantasy NBA Today, which, again, I'm still not recording, so the people that are listening to this on the pod won't hear this part. The top shows are the last 4 Friday shows we've done, and then you and I did a sleeper retrospective right before the season started, and then I did a show on overhyped sleepers like the Thursday before that. That's the top 6 shows in the history of this podcast. So damn right it's about the pod. Friday's a hit, man. We're a hit. We made it. We really made it. So that's cool. Want to do the show for real now?
Sure, why not, Dan? Hit the button. Push it. Push it real good.
I need to make a marker down so I know where to actually start when I'm editing.
Push it.
17 minutes and 50 seconds. That's how long this thing's going to run, and then I'm going to I'm going to go. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Fantasy NBA Today live. I am Dan Besbris. He is Aaron Bruski. This is, of course, Fantasy NBA Today, a hoop ball presentation. Now we're official. Now that I've said that, we can say whatever we want. So you were saying about, I guess I can't do that, right? Because half the people know what you were saying. And the other half of people that are listening to this podcast later don't know what exactly you were doing in them. Are you shaking water out of your ear?
I'm stretching, Dan.
Oh, okay.
Full body health.
I thought you
were
were
ready, man.
That Seinfeld episode where Kramer's got water in his ear and he's just banging his head to the side for the whole half an hour. I thought I was experiencing that.
When we were in Europe for our honeymoon, it's just such a random scene. We're in like Cinque Terre, and this dude's like wearing his thong and sitting in there like in the town square, right? Old dude, he's got to be like 65, 70 years old. He's sitting there in the town square. He's got a hose, right? And I swear to God, the guy just sat there and like hosed his ear out for at least 25 minutes.
That sounds incredibly relaxing.
It was right. Like Cinque Terre is this like area of like 5 small towns that you can only get to by boat.
Can you hold the podcast down for like the next 20 seconds? Because I got something I want to show on air to the YouTube viewer. So just talk for a second.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just in the middle of the town square. So it's like a very packed area of tourists. And, this is this dude just hosing his ear out like nothing. And what's weird is if you're going to hose, if you're trying to clean your ear, hose it out for 25 minutes. But I was thinking the kind of along lines that you were, is he's trying to get water out of his ear, which would really make no sense. If you're going to try to get water out of your ear, why would you put more water into your ear? These are the things that make you go, huh? And can I stop rambling now? What are you doing over there? I gotta just actually look and see what you're doing. You are actually prop.
It's not going
into this.
Well, it's not going as well as I thought it would. It's a very large prop, and I'm forced to move away from the microphone a tiny bit to show it. But if you guys want to,
are we going to get an Emmy for sports TV?
Can everybody see this thing now?
Yeah, that's Cinque Terre right there. Which do we know which one that is?
I'm not 100% sure. It's actually a 2,000-piece puzzle that my wife and I did, and then we glued it because Cinque Terre is so darn pretty that we haven't put it on a wall yet. But it's in progress.
That I believe is Monte Rosa. That was that place is awesome. I can't wait to get back. The food, the drinks.
Apologies for abandoning you for a moment there.
Oh, it's all good. What I thought was that we were going to get a sports Emmy for compelling and rich television. But
I'm wanting to bring props into the show.
I might be a little over optimistic, Dan, as some viewers, readers, opposing sites might feel I am over optimistic on certain players.
Well, it's a good thing I've got my list of hot free agents to go over, huh?
Let's chat, Dan, because I do appreciate the tweet you sent out last night that talked about accountability, transparency, and something else.
Yeah,
I mean, we were talking about there.
Yeah, I was doing a little preview of today's episode of the show, and I knew people were going to ask about a handful of guys. So I thought, listen, we're not going to dodge questions about guys that are underperforming.
No, you can't do that. No, you can't do that. And it's really important because a lot of guys, I mean, the emails kind of just come in. They're all the same. I got Holmes. I got Mirotic. Got Greg Monroe was a popular one.
Yep. These guys are all on the list.
Yeah. So definitely you got to talk. This is where we made our money last year. Nikola Jokic, we were talking before Dan hit the button, is, there was until December 15th when he starting was really when his stock looked good. And it was no longer could you go out and buy Nikola Mirotic. If you look at his value at this point in time last year, he was a top 160 guy last year. So these are the tough ones. These are the really, really tough ones. And if you bailed on Jokic last year, a lot of sites said, hey, just kind of hang on. We were telling you guys to aggressively buy low. But with this group of guys, we have to look at them each individually.
Right.
But you saw what happened with Greg Monroe last night. That we don't know what's up with that.
Why don't we start with Phoenix then, huh? That feels like a pretty good place to go. Greg Monroe comes busting out of the gate by the way, that was one of the worst basketball games I think I've ever seen in my life. That was a travesty of a basketball game. Phoenix played no defense. And to say that they played any defense would be an insult to any defense. That was the ugliest thing. I mean, if I wanted to watch the All-Star game, I'll wait until February. That was embarrassing for both teams.
It was the stupid All-Star game. Like stupid Watergate. It's the stupid All-Star game.
Yeah, it was the All-Star game with one All-Star. Two? I don't know. One All-Star probably. Yeah, two. Chris Paul's back. So two. So what do we think is actually going to happen? Here's my best guess, and then feel free to tell me where I'm right and where I'm wrong. The impression I got was that this felt like kind of a showcasing. And it also feels like it could be a showcasing that is longer than one game, right? I mean, for one, he's far and away their best offensive option at center. Tyson Chandler has zero offense, and Alex Len, I would almost say, has negative offense because he takes ill-advised shots and often misses them, where at least with Tyson Chandler is like, no, I'm not even going to put this up. Here, somebody else do something. I don't want to hold on to this ball. It's a hot potato. Alex Len's like, oh, I'll chuck it from here. This feels right. With Greg Monroe, it's like, all right, I'm going to get this thing right up next to the bucket. And when I'm near the bucket, there aren't that many guys that can stop me because the Moose is actually pretty good on the offensive side. Defensively, he's kind of like a wash because Chandler, as you call it, he's a traffic cone. Alex Len is basically a traffic cone who doesn't even know where he's supposed to be. Again, that's why Chandler's been playing more, because at least a traffic cone in the right spot is better than a traffic cone on the wrong side of traffic.
All right there, by the way.
Greg Monroe is like what's something that move? He's like a tree sloth. He's one very small.
He's making his move to get to the right spot. I'm glad you said that. I hadn't really thought that through. He's making the move to the right spot, knowing that he's going to fail on defense. He's going to the next spot that he needs to be. He's light years ahead.
He is light years ahead of Tyson Chandler, who's light years ahead of Alex Len. So it's not like they have a good defensive option at center. So why not get something on the offensive side? But how do they play all three guys? Tyson Chandler was out with a sickness yesterday. He caught a case of the Greg Monroe flu. Is he now the backup? Is Alex Len completely out of the picture? Are they really going to try to play three centers? Is this Milwaukee Bucks 2.0? But instead of John Henson and Thon Maker, it's Tyson Chandler and Alex Len. What do I do? I think Greg Monroe
is a mess. Well,
minutes and actually has some value.
The beat writer in Phoenix, he's a newish guy. I forget his name off the top of my head. Said that he did see Tyson Chandler and he was definitely sick.
Okay.
So
no, my tinfoil hat. Put it over here.
Yeah, but there's also levels of sickness. Like, if this was an important game, would he have played? Probably. That's kind of the feel that you would get with that kind of a thing. This is an example of when the player matters more than the situation, because you got to see what he was capable of last night. And so that gives you, a window into what the upside could possibly be. And on a Suns team, he actually makes them kind of whole. When you have an interior scoring presence, that changes the game for that team. Now, I guess the fact that they scored 116 points last night might be a feather in their cap, though that might have just been a function of the way the game was played, the pace and the garbage time aspect of it. But still, like, Suns have been just a massive problem from a box score perspective. They had a little bit of balance last night. So that gives you a little bit of hope about what, this might mean for other players, I guess. And so if you're Phoenix and you're looking at this guy who could help you out, help round out your offense, you're kind of crazy if you don't put him in there. This is Phoenix we're talking about here. They feel like they've got to give veteran minutes to Tyson Chandler because they can't coach on their own. And then they got to point to this guy and say, here's the leader, do what he does, even though he can't defend anything.
Yeah, he can't do it anymore, but he knows what he should be doing.
Yeah, exactly. This is weak coaching, 101 right around the league. When you got to put a veteran in, instead of being able to convince the player you've got to have that veteran in there that's underperforming. So that veteran can then annoy the youngster who doesn't want to listen to them because they can't cover a person, on the other side of the floor. They might bring Tyson Chandler back and do exactly what you said. They might rotate 3 centers. They've got all, up until the trade deadline to look at moving him. It's going to be a possible mess, but at the same time, they might trade Tyson Chandler. They might trade Greg Monroe. Greg Monroe might go to a different place that has, a hole like this. But if he stays in Phoenix, this is a top 50 guy. If he gets the 26 minutes that he got last night, teams aren't going to play hard, and they're not going to be that concerned if Greg Monroe beats them on the inside. It's just pretty amazing what kind of a situation he's fallen into. So, it kind of begs the question with all of these other guys. I know that it sucks when you've got zeros, hanging out on your bench, or you're waiting for a player to pop. And yet, but go back a week, and what did you think about Greg Monroe? You thought, man, I got to get rid of this guy. He is killing me. And you got a top 50 asset now.
Yeah. Oh, I remember what the other tweet was I sent out. It was, I mentioned how, now that's a different one. I send too many tweets these days. I need to scale that thing back. But I was talking about how, and I can't remember if it was I feel like it was last Friday that I went on this sort of verbose and unnecessary point-driven soapbox moment about how, like, there's a minimal chance, like a 20%
for a podcast.
So,
but unnecessary.
Oh yeah, that would be a good.
Go on.
That there was like a 20% chance that Greg Monroe panned out in any way, but if it happened, then he has that almost infinite, almost limitless potential to help your team, and like you'd feel kind of dumb if you weren't the guy waiting for it there when it happened. So that's why we basically said, hey, why not use a speculative ad on Greg Monroe? If he doesn't work out, the 80% chance he doesn't work out, you just drop him and you go move on to something else. But the 20% chance he does, he can be a bit of a game changer. And we saw it last night. Although, good things and bad things to take away from that ball game. He played early in the fourth quarter, even when they're down 30 points. So that's something. Obviously he didn't play down the stretch because they were still down 30-something. But, like you said, if nobody's trying against Phoenix, there's no reason to think that he can't shoot well over 50, 55% and just basically have layups all game. He can get layups all game, except for a handful of opponents. So here's my issue, though. When Chandler comes back, I don't know if I have the confidence to start Greg Monroe until we see what they do with the 3 guys. Like, with Chandler out, it's an obvious go. But with Chandler back, do we wait one game?
I don't know that Alex Len is worth, if you're the Suns, I don't know if he's worth playing. I know that you spent a high pick on him and you want to try to see it pan out, but going with Tyson Chandler and Greg Monroe, granted, any smart team would just tear that apart on the pick and roll, all they want, but they're already going to do that against Len. They're already going to do that in general. Why not have a guy that can get you in 25 minutes a game, the kind of numbers, not 20 and 11, 2 steals and a block every night, but 16 and 7.
Yeah, very doable.
Right in that range. And add they looked, with Monroe in there, when you got Booker jacking shots left and right, and you got Warren, doing his thing, with zero chance of making a pass. Those 2 guys are killing point guards on anything in a week. That's how you know things aren't good with the structure of a team and how things are working. When players that are normally just, you take their averages, when they haven't produced in a week, like there's something wrong with the way things are being run. And I think Monroe will be more of an answer to that. Any other person out there, not Alex Len, and not Tyson Chandler. So I think he might just knock Len out of the rotation.
That'd be swell. Let's go to Utah. Next spot. I don't think this one should take as long as Phoenix. It does seem like the early returns are that Derek Favors, they're going to run him. They're just going to run his ass into the ground and see if they can stay above water. Although now we're hearing that Ricky Rubio is out with an Achilles issue. And you almost start to feel a little bad for Utah right now. If they lose their 1 and their starting 5, I don't know what more they could do. But it does seem like Derek Favors is in for a pretty heavy workload over the next month. I like what I saw. He didn't shoot the ball well his first 2 games, or 3 games, I guess. The first one was the good one. Everybody picked him up. Second 2 didn't shoot the ball as well. But 4 blocks and 2 steals in his last 2. He's averaging 10 rebounds over that stretch. I mean, you're looking at a guy who seems like he could be a top 75 dude while Gobert is out.
Yeah, he's going to be great. And you might, if you own Derek Favors, make the sales pitch right now.
Yeah, I mean,
blast out a bunch of offers and see if you can get yourself a top 75 player for the stretch. And but yeah, he's going to be fine through this entire period. And playing closer to the hoop, getting more rebounds, access to blocks, steals, things like that. That's going to be great for him. The other 2 guys, in a similar vein as Derek Favors, would be Rodney Hood. If you're able to sell him right now while there's some value, he's going to be called upon to do a lot. So berserk is going to be Donovan Mitchell. He's the guy that can do it all. And they're going to need him to facilitate a ton of offense with Ricky Rubio out. Both those guys are going to have to do a lot. I'm not sure that the efficiency doesn't become overly prohibitive here. It's going to be hard for these guys. You're relying on a rookie, Hood, a little bit of Alec Burks, and then Joe Ingles can run pick and roll, and Derek Favors can be that role guy. But what are we? We're out of players, I think, on one hand that can do stuff.
Yeah,
so that's going to be a lot of 39% shooting nights for the team.
Moving along from Utah, I told you that was going to be an easier one. The return of Rajon Rondo is on my list. I'm actually really excited. I'm not going to go into too much detail on this one, but Mike Pellichet of Bourbon Street Shots had a chance to talk to him briefly last night. That part of the podcast will be aired either Monday or Tuesday. He had interesting thoughts about Rajon Rondo's return, actually far more positive than I expected. And it actually ran kind of in parallel to some, I thought, rather harebrained things that I'd said on Fantasy NBA Today about how if they get even a touch of good Rondo, he could actually make the other guys on that team better. But there's always that fear that he turns into Chucker Rondo, and that's a terrible thing on a team with Boogie, AD, and Drew Holiday. He should be attempting the 4th most shots on a nightly basis, and that ain't going to be the case every night. He's still Rajon Rondo. But I liked what I saw out of Drew Holiday in that first game. I know somebody came to me in the league and was like, oh, he's not going to get any assists anymore. And I'm like, well, yeah, but he's also not going to average like 4.5 turnovers a game making awful passes, and he's probably going to score at a better clip. So what are your thoughts on Rondo's return? I'm excited also to air the Mike Pellichet spot next week.
Yeah, I got to talk with Mike offline, and he's pretty optimistic about Rondo's impact. And I'm thinking he's pretty realistic about what Rondo brings. But mostly I think his point would be, if I'm guessing, that Rondo is bringing much needed point guard skills to the table for this squad. And that's absolutely true. Drew Holiday is more of a combo. You don't really have beyond that. Jameer Nelson is a little bit of a combo guard. I think he's a competent system guy, but they would benefit drastically from a point guard that can get the ball to guys versus like DeMarcus Cousins handling on the perimeter, having 7-8 turnovers per game. Like, it's working now, kind of. those two dudes should dominate. Like, there is no excuse. Michael Malone was talking the other day. They said, you know, have you seen Boogie's threes and all of that? And he kind of gave this little like backhanded compliment, which was like, yeah, he can shoot it from out there, but we told him to get his ass in the post. You know, that's me paraphrasing, by the way. He didn't say that. But that was, if you read the quotes, that was the, you know, kind of the implication there. And to the credit of the Pelicans, there have been many more plays, not just for Cousins, but for Davis, where they station a big at the top and they are able to either with a big-to-big high-low pass or just even rotating over to the wing and then getting the big into the block, they've been able to take advantage of some post play. So Rondo, when he returned, he was able to play very well in that first game. He was out there just doing all sorts of Rondo stuff, none of the dumb Rondo stuff, and really stayed within the scheme. There was a couple plays, though, where I saw, you know, he had a little bit of daylight, you know, had Boogie trailing, and instead of probing to go in for the, you know, the easy kind of offensive play, whatever you want to call it, he waited for Boogie to show up in the trail 3 position. And we'd seen that in Sacramento so many times where you just get a different shot. Whatever it is, Boogie in the trail 3, yeah, he's shooting well. It doesn't feed Boogie. It doesn't feed him the way he needs to be fed. Once he starts getting comfortable jacking a bunch of threes is where you start to see inefficient Cousins. And then you'll get these big stat lines, but they're hugely inefficient with a lot of turnovers. And they're not putting, this was Malone's point as well, is they're not putting the opposing team on their heels. They're not putting them into foul trouble. And that's what that team needs to do. If they're going to beat the Warriors, right? You know, that's the theory, is that you got bigs versus smalls. They can't beat the Warriors shooting threes. They got to figure out how to play those two dudes down low, getting them into foul trouble, mismatches, and all of that stuff. So Rondo, when he's going to get like 22 to 24 minutes tonight, bigger sample of what he's doing and how the team is playing off of him. Is he a primary ball handler, or is he handling, say, a third of the time? Those are the questions that I would be asking. But as far as stats go, in an 8-cat league, man, he's going to be good. I would say 75 easy. And then in 9-cat, it gets a little bit, you know, odd because he might not handle as much. He might be a top 100 guy in 9-cat.
All right, let's move on to another one that I think is one of the easier questions we'll handle here at the beginning of the show, and that is my heart, my affection, the undying love that is Jonathan Henson.
Nice. I didn't know where you're going with that. I thought Mirotic might be in play, but
no,
that's known better.
That's a harder question. I'm saving that one for a little later. John Henson is where we're going first. He good night, bad night. So far, it seems like he's seeing 25, 27 minutes. I see no reason to bail out right now.
Nope. That one's a locked and loaded one as long as he stays healthy for the rest of the year. Nice and easy. Nice and easy. He might not wow you. Yeah. But
this is that moment, you know, where you've been waiting for something for so long, and then it's finally there, and you just don't know what to do with yourself. I would have been so sad if I didn't get him in at least one league, and I did. I got him in one out of my 3 medium money leagues, and so that'll have to do. I have Miles Turner and Kevin Durant in one of the other ones, so I sort of didn't need the blocks push in that league. But the other one I did, and I told this story on Fantasy NBA Today. On my way to the Lakers game on Wednesday, and by the way, this is a segue to the next team we're going to talk about, I was checking my phone because there were 11 games going on, and most of them were happening early in the night. I wanted to see how my guys were doing. Sitting in traffic. It took me 2 hours to go like 14 miles in LA. And I saw John Henson, and it said 6 points, 9 rebounds, and 3 blocks at like the 9-minute mark of the third quarter. And I thought, outstanding. And then I checked in like 10 minutes later, and it had removed a block from him, and he had missed 4 free throws. And this is what you get, by the way, for getting too excited. That's the magic of John Henson. But this is a segue to the next game, and that is the Lakers' Wednesday night opponent, the Philadelphia 76ers, who, as I was texting you, Brew, from the ballgame, I literally watched Richaun Holmes not play a second in the first half, and then while everybody else was running a layup line to start the second half, Holmes was running suicides along the sideline. He had gotten so cold from not doing anything that he was like, I can't even go for a layup. I need to make sure that I can get a sweat going. He played 90 seconds in the third quarter. And then by the time I had texted you that he was in the game, he was out of the game. Though people in the arena knew he was in the game because over the silence of a timeout, I did just scream Rashawn at the top of my lungs. Must have confused the Lakers fans nearby, especially because I'd been clapping for the Lakers the entire game. And then he played like 3 minutes in the fourth quarter when they just had to take Embiid out. Now, obviously, there is one factor in this game, and that's Joel Embiid was having a career night in almost every fantasy and reality aspect. The fact that the Lakers put Julius Randle on him for the last 6 minutes of that game was one of the most ridiculous coaching decisions that I think I've seen all season.
That was ugly, dude.
But the thing that still is more frustrating is that Amir Johnson played 9 like total windbag minutes where they put him in the game and the Lakers immediately went on like a 20-point run. And then they put him back
okay in that game.
Really?
I thought he did okay. Like, I mean, he did some things that I thought would be. This is why you have a guy like Amir Johnson. He does some veteran things that are, stand in the right spot. He rotated for a block really well. He got a running start on a block, and he looked really athletic. And then on the next play, when there was a pick and roll ran at him, he just kind of froze like a deer because he knew he couldn't challenge the shot. He knew he couldn't do anything.
I know the block you're talking about, bro. I was actually our seats were sort of behind that basket and then second deck, and after it, I don't know if the camera caught it. After his leaping fly swat block, he sort of tripped over his own feet and took 3 awkward stumbling steps towards the Sixers bench before he was able to catch up with his team on offense. So it was like, if you catch me in the air,
he geared up for that.
Yeah, he was. It's ready to go. But
like
why?
That's what he's still talking about that block today. It was a good one, but it was a good one.
But why? Why? What's going on? What's the message being said here?
Holmes's block was something out of a movie. Like Holmes comes weak side and just slams the ball like I don't know how many rows deep, and
it stuck the landing. You got to stick the landing. Amir didn't stick the landing.
I think that block actually, it's important, like his game. There was the article before in the game prior that said, this is how we're handling Amir Johnson's minutes and Brett Brown's being a pro and telling him, hey, you're not playing. And then they said, well, Amir hadn't been notified he wasn't playing. So we knew last game, not this game we're talking about, that it was an Amir Johnson game. And then this game, you kind of thought, all right, well, here's the Lakers. This is a bad team. Probably a good chance to get Rashawn Holmes in there and then see what he can do. But what ended up happening is Amir got the minutes. And I'd say like 20% of me believes that Brett Brown said, hey, it's your hometown. Especially you got a veteran that's probably not going to play a ton this year. And you might, as a coach, say, hey, let's get you in front of your friends and family, big stage, and give you some minutes here. But with Holmes, this is the same thing as Greg Monroe. And Holmes is a better version of Greg Monroe. Monroe is probably more consistent on a night-to-night basis, but he's old, he's got injury risk, he's starting to fall off, and you can't, use him defensively. There's a lot of stuff going on there with. He's just instant athleticism, and he's the kind of player that you have a hard time turning him away if you're Brett Brown. The questions with him is it going to happen fast enough for fantasy owners? And one of our reader listeners sent a tweet to me what he was going to be doing with a couple of these guys, or actually was it just Holmes? No, it was just Holmes. And I thought it was really smart. Like in head-to-head formats where you might be hurting because you got stash guys, you got injured guys, whatever the case may be. You might look at this and say, all right, I need somebody that's giving me something now. And that particular piece of advice was to wait a week. And so if I'm in that kind of situation, if I'm 1-5 in my league for whatever reason, kind of looking at that as the threshold. If I'm 3-3, I'm probably not even thinking this way. I'm thinking I can make my playoff run, and I'm probably way more aggressive than this on Rashawn Holmes. But if it's dire, for whatever reason, and you're looking and saying, okay, I got to get somebody now, I would wait a week in head-to-head, keeping in mind this guy's played 5 games, I think, maybe 6. Not a ton for, a young player to unseat the veteran that the general manager brought in because they're all Nike dudes. Which when it happened, I thought, the Colangelos are stupid enough to actually stunt this kid's development, but whatever. You don't worry about that because you think the talent's going to win out. Waiting that week would give you a good 9-10 games to see what can he do to win these minutes. And in a roto format, the piece of advice that I got was 2 to 3 weeks. And that, to me, really rang true because I'm sitting there going, there's no way in hell I'm dropping Rashawn Holmes in a roto format anytime soon. I need to see him over 2 to 3 weeks from now kind of fail before I'm going to turn away a guy that can get me top 100 production in 20 minutes per game. And that Joel Embiid jumps all over the court. He falls 4 times a game. The kind where you go, oh, damn, please no, don't do it again. And he does that all the time. And I also think once Rashawn Holmes gets going that you're going to see the point guard Ben Simmons play some 3. And and also Charic, to me, is a guy that is kind of living on not borrowed time, but he's got to start doing a little bit more to hold off a Rashawn Holmes. So again, young player, he's going to have to earn his minutes. But I just, as far as watching him play defense, seeing what he brings to the table, I just, at this point in time, I'm not ready to turn the page.
All right. What about some of the other, I guess we put them all into a similar bucket, and they're all at probably different stages along that. Last week you mentioned Gorgui Dieng was kind of getting towards the end of his rope. We're getting questions about Nerlens Noel. We covered him at pretty good length last week, and then Kelly Olynyk is the third in this sort of power forward / center contingent of guys that we need to see something from. Although I feel like the story for each of them is a tiny bit different. So what do you think about Noel, Olynyk, and Dieng? Where do they fall on your spectrum right now?
This concept of luxury stash is really important. Noel, absolutely a luxury stash. I mean, you want a guy that can on a permanent basis get you whatever, top 50, top 75. If you got the roster space and you're fine, stash them all. Stash them while you can. So he's already in that category. He's not a guy own player in 12-team formats, unfortunately. I mean, that's all spun south. It is what it is. But he's already proven that it's not looking good there. With Dieng, he has 2 more games for me as far as, to me, being a guy that enough to force Tibbs's hands, where with Noel, he's not giving you anything on offense, right? Defensively, we can pick apart some of the stuff that he does that's not good. And so I'm a little less bullish about Noel forcing Rick Carlisle's hand. But with Dieng, I mean, shooting, passing, screen setting, defense, it's all there. It's right now, he's picking Bielitsa, and he's obviously going with Taj and not really making Gorgui a focus. I wonder if the time off might help Gorgui get a little refocused. It's not looking good, though. I think after the end of 2 games, what I'm going to say he's a luxury stash. But he's got 2 more games for me. It looks like he's probably going to play tonight, so that's good. But it's tough. And what's going to just a la Greg Monroe, you're going to see Gorgie Jang pop up with 25 minutes at some point, and he's going to be putting up top 75 value. And you're going to be like, damn, I held for 6 weeks and I ate, and there he is. That's the tough part. But that's fantasy basketball in a nutshell.
Yeah, sometimes you just can't afford to hold long enough. And then Olynyk was the last one. He looks.
Oh, this one's an easy one right now. Okay, so last measurement, I think he was at like top 125 value, top 100. I want to say in 8 cat leagues at 19 minutes a game. That's good enough to be in your roster. That's good enough to be in lineups in 4-game weeks. Now, granted, he's on a little bit of a dip right now, but there are a lot of Heat players that are on a dip right now. And there's talk, there's even articles being written about what about going back to Olynyk next to Whiteside. Have an average of 19 minutes per game or 20 minutes per game. You're going to have some bad and some good. But when you average these things out, they're at a top 100, top 125 level. So unless you're in an 8-team league or a 10-team league, you might have such a good roster that you don't need this in a 10-team league. Still valuable. And this is at the low end. If he gets up to 23, 24, 25, now he's back up where, we rated him in the Bruski 150. So I would personally not turn that math away at all. So you would have to have a very good fantasy basketball team, in my opinion, to not keep that on your roster. But I am seeing some rosters that are, better than that. So it really does depend on your roster a little bit.
All right, last two. We're going to go to Charlotte. The return of Nick Batum. Trying to get a bit of a feel here for the Jeremy Lamb fallout. He played 14 first half minutes in that first game, and then he only played 7 minutes, I believe, after the mid-game break. He still put up a useful fantasy line. It does seem like there's going to be some kind of dip. There kind of had to be, but I don't, I feel like people are asking about a premature dump there, and I don't know that feels like the right move. It kind of feels like you need to at least see how it plays out first, right?
You do. And what's interesting is there's two realities with coaches. They say something like, here's your minutes limit for tonight, and then the player goes wildly over it. The other is, they're not going to lose any minutes, and then maybe the reality is that his minutes would be at risk in the case of Jeremy Lamb. I think he played 24 in that game. And that would kind of be in line with what I thought he might get heading into the season. And I think we rated him a smidge above that as far as his final projection for minutes per game. But that's, kind of the way that this would look with or without he has shown a lot, I think, over the course of these first 10 games or so. I would think he's earned more to my kind of the thought I had where he would be at before the season. 24, 26 minutes per game is kind of where I thought he would be. So I'm comfortable with owners holding at 24 to 26 minutes per game.
If we see it start to peter off to like 17, 18, is that then things change a little bit?
I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, I could, I guess, but I think he's earned the 24. And now it's just up to him to keep producing. And he's got a fairly stable stat set. He needs to hit more threes. But he's good in 25 minutes per game. He can be a low end play. And then from there, you just know you've got a guy that when others have been injured in the past, he's been able to step up. And so I'm not dropping him. I would wait. He'd have to slump for 5, 10 games, before I'm really saying, all right, you know what, we got to move on.
Last team to cover before we move into the questions lightning round portion of the proceedings, and that is the Chicago Bulls. Latest report, we'll take the good with the bad, by the way. Niko Mirotic not traveling with the Bulls on their upcoming 4-game road trip, but that would have been probably quicker than we expected him to return. But it does sound like he's actually starting to get into the ballpark of playing competitive basketball again, which is a good thing. The bad part of the news is that we also got word that Lauri Markkanen is the starting power forward for this team, which, by the way, feels like kind of a good way to not have to pick between Bobby Portis and Niko Mirotic. Not saying that that's what they've done in Chicago, but it does seem kind of like the easy way out. Here, Lauri, you keep starting these two guys that want to sock each other. I'm not going to pick one over the other. You don't want to choose your favorite son. You guys can play backup minutes and you're on even ground or something like that. Maybe it was a concession to Nico as well. How does this shake out? I mean, can Mirotic still get to 25 minutes? I still think he can off the bench, but it's ugly over there right now.
This report, I had to formulate a response to somebody asking me a question, and it actually helped me figure out what I think of this, because 4 games, that I wouldn't have expected to come back in these next 4 games.
Right.
But the fact that he's on the injury report, so to speak, they're tracking, is he going to be playing, traveling, etc. That means he's getting closer. And you're right about the Markkanen starting. That's in addition to what you said. There's a lot of benefit for Garpax to say, hey, look at our great draft pick. This is what we did that was really, really smart. We're going to keep starting him. How long they can start him and Lopez together is debatable. But again, I don't even know that it matters. There's 2 things when you have a low minute total like Mirotic does, is there's always room to go up. And that's kind of what we had hoped for as a fantasy asset, as he got up to 28, 29 minutes per game. But the other is, it's not that hard to find 25 minutes for a guy like that. And I think he could move down to small forward if need be, if they're really hell-bent on keeping Felicio playing and keeping, Robin Lopez where he's at and giving Markkanen 30-plus minutes, and then Portis, getting him whatever he's going to get. I think they could easily slide Mirotic down and play him at small forward. But it didn't last year play him any at small forward. I think you just kind of got to see this out, because the reporting on it is currently these guys aren't talking, and the organizational standpoint is different when they're not talking. They have to talk at some point. Or Mirotic is going to get stubborn as all hell and say, I ain't going to talk to this guy, trade me on January 15th. And that's, that's kind of like this doomsday scenario that doesn't really feel like it's heading that way. So what happens when they talk is they're going to sing Kumbaya. They're going to get on the same page, because you can't not be on the same page in basketball. It's just not doable. You can hate a dude, but you got to be willing to play with them, and they will get on the same page at some point. And when that happens, I think that the organizational reporting will change, and then we'll really know what kind of value this guy has. Right now, we just don't know, and that's all coming in the next 2 weeks. So if he's a top 75 guy, I just feel like it's worth waiting 2 weeks to find out.
Yeah, I agree. We've come this far, and you guys know my love for Nico. I mean, I've got him on every team. So at this point, I got to just see how it goes. And if he gets up to 25 minutes, then he's a damn useful guy.
And they also need scoring really, really bad.
And he can do that. That's one of the things he does.
They need a go-to guy. Their guards are just not able to create offense. And yeah, you're going to get Zach LaVine, and he'll help in that regard. Justin Holiday can kind of create offense, but we're seeing what happens, what his limitations are. Nico, that's what he does. And so if he's going to go into that team, great opportunity there for him to help the Bulls quite a bit. So again, why I'm optimistic.
Before we get into the lightning round chat room portion of the show, Bruski, first of all, he's at Aaron Bruski on Twitter. I'm at Dan Besbris. Do give a follow to at Hoopball Tweets, and follow my good buddy and myself at Hoopball Lakers. We've got a new Lakers podcast that we debuted a week ago or 2 weeks ago, whatever it was, and you can get all the updates there at Hoopball Lakers. What do we got going on at Hoopball? Give me like the 3-minute version before we get into the questions.
Chaos, craziness. No, it's good now. We're just developing some stuff that's super top secret. That's going well in the development process, and that's what's going on. Other than that, I just Thanksgiving's right around the corner.
Yeah.
getting ready for the holidays and, schedule requests and all that fun stuff, and just
Tell me
trying
about
to.
tell me about DraftKings promo.
Oh, DraftKings, that thing's going crazy. Yeah, no, you get the premium membership for free if you are a new user with DraftKings and you deposit $5. And so, yeah, people have been really taking advantage of that. If you've already bought the premium membership, we'll actually refund you your original purchase if you qualify for that promotion. So, we've been doing that. We've been doing contests of the night with those guys, and say enough about it. It's been great for us. I hope it's been great for them, and we're going to continue to do that.
That is at hoop-ball.com. It's if you hover over the premium tab, the DraftKings promo is one of the drop-down options. Click on that and you can learn more. Also, of course, check out the Hoop Ball forums. They're so active right now, I can't even freaking keep up these days, but I still want to send you guys there. It's awesome. It's crowdsourced fantasy advice, and it's pretty damn good, too. So check that out as well. Hoop-ball.com. Click on the forums tab. All right, chat room time. I do want to mention, by the way, the chat room auto scrolls down. So, I see what the most recent thing is. This is what's happening as we're talking right now. And who should grace the chat room but Donald Trump himself? I can't even believe what I'm seeing right here. And he came in, and in all lowercase with 3 question marks, he just says, "How are you doing?" It's very, very formal. I feel honored by that. Let's scroll back up to the top and hit up some questions here. Adrian Benjamin says, "Happy Friday." Faisal says, "One of the best days of the week. By the time the show comes on, he's half done with work." That's awesome. This is great, man. We got like the contingent here coming in, and they're all saying hi to each other. Of course, that means I gotta hunt down the stinking questions in here.
We need a chat room for the chat room.
I know. We need a chat room for the chat. I love that everybody knows one another in the chat room now. That it's just like a free for all, and I don't mind hunting down the questions because everybody's having such a good team. Here's a trade: a 16 team head to head 9-cat punt free throws. Would you trade Marc Gasol for Andre Drummond?
We're punting free throws, huh?
We're punting free throws. This gentleman is. You and I are not this gentleman.
I would still go with Marc Gasol because it's weird with Drummond. He's not the free throw guy he once was. It makes him a little bit more valuable, but we're not going to count on his current valuation, which a few weeks ago was top 20. It's not going to be that. Gasol is going to be better. If you want to put on some tinfoil, you see what's happening with Mike Conley. This could easily happen with Marc Gasol down the stretch if they start to struggle, which they will. But no, Drummond's going to shoot like 54% this year from free throw. And that will be enough to drop him, say, like top 40. And I think with Gasol, especially if he really starts cranking it up, he could be a top 20 guy. So I'm going to go Gasol.
All right, they're asking you to choose between your favorite children. Rank Ingles, Prince, and James Johnson, one against the other, basically. Who do you like the most? Who do you like the least?
Prince and James Johnson. Holy crap! Why are you guys doing this? What's our cats? What are we? How many cats we got?
Screw it. Let's go 9.
All right. Well, suffice to say, it's probably Smoking Joe.
Smoking Joe, number 1. Who's behind him? James Johnson or Taurean Prince?
It's going to be James Johnson because Taurean Prince has the greenest light to fling the ball around I've ever seen. He is doing some stupid stuff out there. But did you see the lines, this week for Taurean Prince? My God.
Yeah, he's waking up. He's waking up.
He's already pretty much woke.
I do like to think that we have one of the wokest shows in fantasy sports. 14 team. Well, it's an 8-cat. Wait, no, it's a 9-cat. But we replaced free throw percentage with free throws made. Giannis is on one side, and the other side is a veritable treasure trove. Draymond Green, Marc Gasol, and Taurean Prince, a 3-for-1. Is that a situation where you take the 3 instead of the 1?
Free throws made?
Yeah, instead of percentage.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a tough one. 3-for-1.
I mean, Giannis is obviously getting to the line probably more than all three of those combined. So if we're not talking about percentages, then that's a plus in his favor, I would guess, which might not be the plus that it is in this format. It might not be that in a regular 9-cat. I'm very tempted.
Would you put in a regular 9-cat? Would you go the Giannis side? Let's forget the weird category for a minute. Would you take Giannis in the 3-1?
I would see Prince in a 9-cat right now kind of falls off the board for me. He's going to be more of a top 80 guy, I think, in 9-cat by the end of the year, once it's all added up. In 8-cat, he's going to be a top 50 guy, maybe more. With that in mind, he does add value to this 3-teamer, or probably 3-player side in an 8-cat. And in a 9-cat, he probably does too. If he just chills out on the turnovers, then he can really shoot up the ranks in the 9-cat. But anyway, I'm still going Giannis. I just, you don't get a chance at that type of value very often.
Very true. Does Dion Waiters have a negative impact on James Johnson? I guess it's a yes or no.
In terms of what?
Yeah, everything.
Yeah, and in the sense that he's a player that gets minutes and takes the ball out of his hands. Yeah, he does have a negative impact on his role. But here's the thing: mentioned that earlier. Miami's going to make some changes here. They're going to have a bounce back with Josh Richardson, with James Johnson, Kelly Olynyk as well, and it's going to happen here in the next 2 games.
Monroe rumors. We talked about Greg Monroe. We didn't mention the rumors of potential destinations. If he ends up in Cleveland, is he still a hold? Deep sigh.
Well, because you got Tristan Thompson there, who's going to play 26 minutes at the lowest, right? Kevin Love's going to play whatever you're going to play, 30 minutes. There's going to be a shortage of center minutes there in Cleveland. So I think Cleveland would be a bad spot for Greg Monroe.
Reminded me of that. It's a really old Family Guy episode where Peter Griffin asks some relative of his, "What's heaven like?" And the relative says, "There's a shortage of chairs." Felt like that moment. Aaron Gordon, currently ranked number 30. He's been falling a little bit after a torrid start to the year. Is this more what we're going to see, like a top 35, 40 guy instead of top 20?
Yeah, and that's what when he was going just bonkers, shooting 60% from 3.
Yeah, that's a pretty obvious
sell high now, sell high now. And we said get any top 30 guy you could really, or top 30 is where you start looking. Now you're getting kind of realistic Aaron Gordon as well as Evan Fournier. You're getting realistic Evan Fournier right now. So he'll have a couple games like the ones that he had. But this is more or less what he is.
Yeah, that's kind of what I figured. Joel Embiid, sell high after that big one against the Lakers?
Man, that is so crazy.
That game was nuts.
He is nuts. And, it's only going to get better from a basketball standpoint. But I think you can build an argument to sell him high in almost any circumstance, and it's the right call. Yeah, if you're gonna take the other side and you're gonna get Joel Embiid, you just gotta have stones, man. You just gotta be like, I am going for the gusto, because he could be a top 1 player in fantasy. He could be the number 1 per game producer. No questions asked, none whatsoever. He puts up stat lines we've never seen before. So, but yeah, it is what it is, injury risk and all that.
Robin Lopez, is he a drop yet?
He could be dropped.
What happened?
He could be dropped.
That's fine. What happens first in Sacramento? Jaeger gone or youth play basketball?
I did an informal poll of some people in Sacramento that know things because I wanted to know what was the thought process of the people, charged with this stuff. And nobody thinks he's going to get let go. And that is a really interesting situation. This is the question of, like, is there going to be a youth movement? Like, Kings have done nothing to suggest that they can control what happens on the basketball court. And that's the difference between a good organization and a bad organization. What they're doing there with Zach Randolph, and the fact that Zach Randolph doesn't get a mention as an issue by anybody close to the team, it gives you a pretty good indication of this is off limits. Like, this is not something that the organization is worried about, and it's not something that the coach is talking about. And it's not something that those around the team are really ready to approach.
So what's your take?
So I think you get another 10 games, okay. 10 games of Zach Randolph. Easy. And then Scal, he's got a great stat set and he's leading the team in net rating. It's going to be frustrating to own him, but the upside is there. Frustrating, though.
Jimmy Butler versus Miles Turner, 9-cat. Who would you rather have?
They're like exactly the same to me. I'm not kidding.
Yeah,
right next to each other on the rank sheet. I would not want to have to pick between those two.
Yeah, it's all about stat set then there. If whatever you need, you go that direction. Rank the following 3 players, 1, 2, and 3, rest of season. Eric Bledsoe, Dennis Schroeder, and Jeff Teague.
8 or 9.
Screw it. Whatever you want.
No, we'll go 8. Well, here, we'll do this. It's going to be Teague, Schroeder, Bledsoe, and 8-cat, and then knock Schroeder back to the back of the pack for 9-cat.
Drop Gorgie Jang for Mario.
No.
Is that the Mario we're talking about here? Chalmers?
No to Super Nintendo Chalmers, though.
Super Nintendo.
This, the Achilles injury is not good, but eventually he's going to come back for Mike Conley. And Chalmers he's worth a look, but this is not the type of move that I want to make for Gorgie Jang at this point.
Skinner. Let's see. We talked about Markkanen. We got that covered, so we can scroll past the Chicago questions in the chat room. Appreciate you guys, but don't worry. Besbris has got you, man. I looked at all this stuff before I came on air. I do prep for the Friday show. Take that. Those that say I don't do prep. I don't know if someone probably did. Philosophical question. So this one gets more than the lightning round treatment, I guess. We'll give you a minute, Tyler, on this one. I tend to try to win with efficiency. Good percentages, low turnovers. What do you think strategy takes the best advantage of undervalued players? I'm inclined to say that the strategy he's employing actually takes it.
Yeah, I think so.
But they're not
undervalued.
They're not undervalued, though. Like, you look at the ranking system and Yahoo, ESPN, whatever, it gives you a ranking based on those categories as well. They're not shiny.
This is an old school versus new school thing. Old school folks took forever to consider the impact of math on the rankings. And so low efficiency popcorn stat guys, that you could punt even with, they were the guys that, head-to-head players gravitated towards. But now, with math being what it is, it's I think the strategy is good, but I think there's a bigger question here. And I see Ryan Naus tend to get at it with his he looks at sort of the distributions of stats and where they're where they're occurring and how they're occurring. And I think there are some answers there that change every single year. This year, I don't know, I haven't looked at the numbers, but the shot blocking has become, in my opinion, more rare, probably because we're seeing more threes being shot and traditional centers being sort of weeded out a little bit. So you might look at, well, what's the impact of that? You might have 10 guys at the top that are really good at blocks, have this massive fall off, and then get into a third tier, a bunch of guys hanging out in the middle of the pack. So what does that really do to the distribution of stats, and where should you focus your energies? Those are really high level fantasy questions that we try to flesh out as much as possible. But in the grand scheme of things, you're looking at the micro view of fantasy sports as well. So that's why this is a great game. There's a lot of questions, short-term, long-term, micro, macro, and you just try to do what you can with the 24 hours that we get.
Greg Monroe versus Kelly Olynyk. Who do you take?
Right now, I'd probably take Monroe, but it's close. It's really close. Olynyk, that sweet stat set, the sweet math, it just, it sits there and it makes him an easy hold. And I like that. But Monroe is the answer.
Justin Holiday or Courtney Lee? I feel like this comes down to whether it's 8 or 9 cat.
Yeah. It's going to be Holiday. He's a better stat magnet. And yeah, Holiday it is. And he's going to be helped by the other players returning.
Got to scroll down through a couple of questions here. We got some Rashawn Holmes, Nerlens Noel stuff, but don't worry, we covered that already. If you missed it, go back and you can watch this bad boy from the start, or you can just listen to it when I put it out on the traditional podcast avenues. Someone has mentioned trying to. It's our buddy Beans. He mentioned maybe trying to get someone like a Thad Young for Derek Favors. We mentioned earlier in the show, maybe trying to sell Favors. That actually feels like a pretty good pairing, like a guy that's going to cruise along at that area where Favors can get to for a little bit, or maybe go a little exceed that. But Thad's got more long-term appeal. That feels like kind of a decent target for Derek Favors, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. That would be ideal.
Malcolm Brogdon versus Justin Holiday, 8 cat.
Brogdon.
Dwayne Dedman versus both of those two guys.
Brogdon. Oh wait, there's a different. No, who was the other guy again? I forgot already. Who's the other guy?
Holiday. It was Justin Holiday, Malcolm Brogdon, and Dwayne Dedman were the three.
Yeah, Holiday's more interesting to me just because, like, gonna do what he's done all year, and it's gonna be top 100 to 125 value, and it's gonna just stay right in that range. Ain't going nowhere else. So I'd rather have the possibility of more upside.
Let's see. What do we got here? A couple things just popped up. Should I sell low on Miles Turner? No, you should never sell low on anybody. It's a good strategy in life.
No, that's not true, dude. Sometimes cutting bait before it's worthless. This is the NBA, the reality NBA thing. They hold and they hold and they hold until they got nothing.
Yeah, that's true.
But no, you shouldn't sell Miles Turner. Like, let him clear the cobwebs out. And another thing, when somebody misses time and players are able to get into a groove, the Darren Collisons, the Victor Oladipos, the Domantas Sabonises, they've been rolling. And, if you're a good teammate, you kind of just don't come in your first few games and be like, it's all about me and give me the ball and I'm going to just go for this massive stat line. You kind of ease yourself in a little bit. And I think that's happened with both him, Jimmy Butler, a couple of these guys where you're like, where's the numbers at? Aggressively buy low on Miles Turner territory. Do anything you can. He's a top 15 guy.
Well, it froze for just a minute right after you said the word top. Top what?
15.
Ah, okay, gotcha. Willie Cauley-Stein, is he droppable?
Are we talking Cauley-Stein?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. The numbers are, he's droppable in the sense that you just don't want to put up with the crap in Sacramento.
Agreed.
But he's still ownable with his production. It's just borderline.
We got a question about DFS stuff. So, Jonathan, I apologize. It's sort of not really our wheelhouse, but thank you for coming into the chat room. I wish we could do more for you. Jabari Parker, is there a point at which you think maybe he's stashable? I think we heard February as a return date.
Yeah, February. He's as the guy with 2 knee injuries. He's somebody they're going to just be super careful with. I would say February 1 is the probable target if I'm just picking out of a hat. Gives him a good amount of time to get acclimated with his teammates and get into good basketball shape. So they could also wait until after the All-Star break for that. You got a trade deadline in there. So it's interesting what they might end up having to try to do there because they might decide that he's not the guy that they're going to hitch their wagon to. When should he be added? I would say maybe January 10, January 15 would be my initial guess right now.
All right, we got a lightning round, the last couple of these, so we can get this bad boy wrapped up. We have given our all to this show, so Brew, get yourself ready. It's not that many.
Stretching, dog. Let's do this.
Draymond Green and Otto Porter on one side of a trade, Ben Simmons and Miles Turner on the other side of a trade.
I'm going to go Draymond Green. I mean, it's tempting. I understand why you're thinking about it, but you got 2 top 25 guys. You got 1 top 15, as I mentioned earlier, and then Simmons for all of these massive numbers. I still am not convinced he's going to be an early round player. So that would make the deal bad on that side.
And then it sounds like if Nurkic just got put into the trade instead of Miles Turner, so that makes it way, way worse on that side as well.
Way worse, yeah.
Your early thoughts on who the MVP of the NBA will be this year?
Who it will be?
Yeah, who do we think it's going to be?
Oh, I'm going to go with... it's going to come down to Kevin Durant versus Giannis, and it's going to be Giannis.
Interesting. Michael Kidd Gilchrist, what are we thinking for him now that he's back and maybe healthy?
I got to see more. I know he's had some big returning. Just got to see more.
Yeah. Gary Harris versus Aaron Gordon, 9-cat. Who do you like?
Aaron Gordon, easy.
Scal versus Willie Cauley-Stein. Which of these 2 players do you pluck from the
dumpster? Scal.
Aaron Gordon versus Chris Middleton.
What was the first one?
Aaron Gordon versus Chris Middleton.
Middleton's going to take a tiny hit with Bledsoe around. I'm going to go Gordon.
Aaron Gordon versus Rob Covington.
Bob Cove looks like the knee thing is way in the rear view. He's more athletic than he was last year. Maybe it's a contract year thing. Who knows? But
he's also shooting 50% from downtown.
Yeah, I was going to say that some of this is coming back, and I think Aaron Gordon's still the play.
Okay, so that's fine. There was actually an Aaron Gordon plus someone else for Covington, so obviously that's still the Aaron Gordon side since it just got sweeter. And that is our quick end of show lightning round, wrapping her up before the noon hour. Bruski, have a wonderful lunch.
Well, thank you, sir. I'm having DirecTV over to install new stuff.
Are they bringing burritos?
No.
Well, then
do that in your neck of the woods?
No, but then that's not a very good lunch.
No, but I got to have state-of-the-art stuff, so you got to do what you got to do.
I agree. He's Aaron Bruski. I'm Dan Besbris. Thanks so much for tuning in to our live Friday show. Again, to everybody that's listening after the fact via the traditional podcast channels, come join us on YouTube next week. We do this every Friday. At Aaron Bruski, at Dan Besbris, at Hoopball Tweets. Have a wonderful weekend. Aaron is back with the premium subs Sunday for the weekly waiver wire show, and then he and I will be together on Monday morning. We'll take care of the weekly lineup program, and Fantasy NBA Today returns Monday with the reverse chronological lightning round Monday. Say it with me, folks. It rolls off the tongue. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you then.